Good morning. So I am hopping on here to talk a little bit about food. So I'm Dr. Samantha Hayatakis, wellness advocate, holistic health expert, and psychologist. And I want to welcome you to a completely different approach to your health and well-being. Now remember, it is my belief and my mission to help women just like you make the right choices for your body because you want to and it's easy, not because you have to. So once you start thinking about food, I want you to settle in for a minute and ask yourself, when you're thinking about food, how do you feel emotionally? How do you feel about food? Do you feel overwhelmed by all the information out there? Do you feel anxious about food and making the right food choices? Do you feel like in order to eat healthy that you have to come from a place of lack and miss out on the foods that you love? Or do you completely say, forget it, I'm not even gonna bother, it's a waste of time anyway, because you find that you're unable to stick to a particular lifestyle when it comes to your food and your nutrition? And what I really wanna get across to you is this, is that when done correctly, and I do this with my clients a lot, when done correctly, eating should be not only simple, but absolutely enjoyable. So one of the things that I really want to get through to you is the way you feel emotionally about the food that you're eating or not eating, or even just the idea of food, will link to how you approach shopping, preparing food, and even ordering out at a restaurant. So I was able to cultivate this change within myself probably about over a decade ago. And it was a progress. So what I love to do with my clients is I take the 15 years of work that I've done on all of these topics and I try to really laser focus it down. And what I want to laser focus down for you today is I'd love for you to think about your eating habits. Think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you feel really good about your eating habits? That would be a 10. A 1 being like that you just don't feel connected to your eating at all. You feel like you're making a lot of mistakes, but you honestly don't know where to begin. That would be a 1. I'd love for you to take stock of where you are and then give me feedback. I know it's hard to sometimes put yourself out there in public, so you can absolutely send me a personal message and I'll respond. And I'd love to see where you are, because honestly, where you should be is that when you are thinking about food and the food choices that you're making, it should really be a no-brainer. And I mean that literally. When I think about how I approach eating, I don't really have to give it a second thought. It's automatic for me. I know what foods serve me and I know what foods don't serve me. I am not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I eat sweets, I eat things that others may think are not healthy. I am not obsessed with healthy food, but I do know the foods that serve me. So I won't be going out and having a candy bar, but because I love chocolate, I will figure out ways to use cacao, which by the way is a fantastic antioxidant for your glowing skin and hair, all these beautiful things. I will figure out ways to get my chocolate, my sweet tooth into the mix. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're thinking about food, that you're not feeling this kind of constricted feeling of, well, I'm going to have to give so many things up, right? And even in my own house, we don't have dairy because my son has an allergy, I have an intolerance, and Billy has an intolerance. So we stay off of dairy. Years ago, when I first heard about having to remove dairy from the equation, I actually pushed back. And this was probably, I want to say, well over 10 years ago. And I pushed back and I said, no way, that's impossible. I was eating the yogurts, the Greek yogurts every morning for breakfast. I had cheese with a lot of things and I couldn't even fathom the idea of removing it. So my emotional energy around that was constricted, was anxious, was coming from a place of lack. I can't remember what caused the turn. I think at that time I was dealing with adult cystic acne, and I think I was just frustrated and said, well, let me try to remove the dairy, because I was reading a lot about how that could be connected. And I removed dairy, and it was very difficult because I had this tunnel vision that if I removed dairy, I would never be able to enjoy that feeling of what dairy is, right? But I learned that there were other things. There are almond milks, there are coconut milks, coconut yogurts. There is other things that I can use to create some of the dishes that I love. I love to make a coconut milk from scratch using some probiotics that I have. So again, that emotional connection that you have to the feeling of how you feel about food is directly linked to how you're going to approach eating. And think about it. If you approach anything from a place of lack, a place of feeling like you're going to be missing out, like how I was with dairy over a decade ago, you're going to resist it. You may do it because you're told to try it, but is it going to last? Probably not. For me, the shift happened when I embraced it and said, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make the best of it. And in the end, I've never looked back. And I do everything in my power to avoid dairy. Sometimes there are slips where I will actually get an exposure to dairy. I know it right away, my body reacts. When it comes to our son, who's only 2, we are much more aware and careful. We have a lot more control of the food that he's eating because I'm making it all. But again, the purpose of this live today is to get a finger on the pulse of where you feel, where are your emotions when it comes to the food and the food that you're choosing or not choosing. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. And remember, my belief is that food is not only medicine, but food is linked to how your body is working for you, the energy that you have or don't have, the sleep that you're getting or not getting. So understanding food in that way, I think could be very empowering. It's very empowering for me. So I like to kind of flip it all on its head and talk about it like that. So let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Send me a private message and I'd love to hear from you. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.